it looks like some sort of controlled chaos at times. There was a lot going on the ground.
Yeah, Dustin, and as we're looking at, of course, that is the actual building where the shooting happened, the Natalie building. Right next to it at the top of your screen is the Kelly building, which is connected with that sky bridge. And if you keep following the camera toward us, toward the left side of your TV, that would connect you to the main hospital where the emergency room is. The children's wing is on the other side, and many, many other offices.
Yeah, Dustin, I know so many of the contacts that we spoke to yesterday said it just looked like a movie that was unfolding. I mean, the cars racing down Yale, and it wasn't just Tulsa police. I mean, there were so many different agencies that all converged on that one location in just a matter of minutes.
That's right. I get a pretty unique advantage from up here to be able to see, and I can recognize Tulsa police cars and OHP and EMSA vehicles, but there were so many vehicles that I couldn't recognize. But with all the flashing lights, it did look like a scene from a movie. I mean, right out there on Yale, just out here outside the parking lot of the hospital area, was just full. I mean, it looked like a traffic jam, but it was all emergency vehicles from all over the place.
And we're seeing those police officers video from yesterday sweeping the roof. One more question, Dustin. What was the air traffic like yesterday? We just saw video of the police helicopter.
Say that again, Dave, sorry.
Yeah, what was the air traffic like yesterday when you were up there with other flying vehicles?
Yeah, so initially I was the first aircraft on scene, and then not long after I got here, the police helicopter was on scene. And whenever they get here, I definitely give way to them. They get the scene. I just climb up above them. And then after a while, there was another helicopter or two that showed up. But for the most part, it was just two of us. And we're kind of in a unique spot here between Riverside and Tulsa that we weren't really in the way for the regular air traffic. But there's a lot going on. The police is low, and they're really sweeping the area. So I just try to stay way up above them. And and that also gives us a perspective from up here to see them actually work the scene like that as well.
Absolutely. It is a perspective that no one else gets except us here. So thank you so very much, Dustin, and stay safe. I know we'll be checking back with you throughout the day. Lots of people who witnessed the shooting were patients. One of them was Jennifer Tapper. She actually used to work at the hospital as a nurse for many years, and she happened to be at the clinic there for urgent care.
News on 6's Kristen Weaver is live with us with her firsthand account of seeing this person. Kristen?
Absolutely. And you guys, of course, the first thing that you think about when these kind of situations happen, I know last night, you think about those people that that work at St. Francis. With the huge operation here, I mean, everybody knows a nurse, a doctor, just somebody that works behind the scenes. And then your mind goes to those people that are just here for a routine visit or some sort of other situation. I had one friend who was about to have a baby here yesterday. And then, like you guys mentioned with Jennifer Tapper, she was just here at the urgent care to, for a routine checkup. She had some pain, and she actually got kind of caught up all in the middle of this. Now, she describes that she was walking out of the parking garage right before all of this went down, and she actually saw the gunman, describes him as a really big man carrying a really big gun, and she says she saw him actually walk inside the building. A few minutes later is when she heard the first round of shots being fired. So, of course, that's when her mind goes to, how do I get out of here? How do I escape this threat? So she, gathers up anybody that's nearby that is not able to get out or is too close to the door and says, hey, come with me, pile in, here we go, let's get out of here. And that's when she hears another round of those shots being fired. So you can imagine it was a pretty terrifying situation for her. She was able to keep her calm and, of course, get out before even law enforcement arrived. So she was, of course, in that right situation, took some people home with her. And again, it was just an incredible firsthand account. You can take a listen to some of what she had told us last night.
We heard shots fired, and so then we ran across. We got across the parking lot, and I got able to get to my car, but her car was parked right by the door, so she couldn't get over to her car. And we see the doctor I had just seen, the nurses I had just seen, they were all in a panic. Not in a panic, they were pretty calm.
Yeah, and Jennifer herself, she was a nurse for almost 40 years. She spent a lot of that actually working at St. Francis, so she's aware of the active shooter drills that they have every year. She says they are very prepared, and that's what helped her keep calm during this whole situation too. But of course, still an incredibly jarring situation for her and for so many other people that were just here visiting the hospital or having a routine checkup. Guys?
All right, thank you, Kristen. You know, I think that was the shock for most folks yesterday. Was we knew a bunch of people that were there. Some had just left. Some were supposed to be going in, and so a lot of the folks that were there or near that Natalie building, no doubt about it, it was fear and panic and uncertainty as to what they were going into. And obviously, I'm sure today they're still shaken.
Yeah, and speaking of knowing people, you know, we want to talk to Cal Day because his mom has worked at St. Francis for years. Now, not necessarily in Natalie, but, you know, when this shooting happened, a lot of people are still shaken up today.
Cal, talk to us a little bit. I know that your mom's worked there for years, and the protocols that she had to go through when this all went down.
Well, Leanne, Dave, that really ups the ante when you know that a family member or somebody that you know is inside one of these scenarios. Of course, this is mostly just something that we observe happening around the country, but when you know this is happening in an area where you grew up, it's tough. And they do have contingencies. Of course, a code silver was called, and when that happens, they do have a plan that they follow. They have protocols for this. The hospital goes into lockdown, and of course they have automatic doors that lock. And so you just got to imagine, though, for the employees on the inside, it was a very tense situation. And a lot of these employees today, they lost friends on some of these floors. These buildings are all connected through skywalks. They have friends that work in different complexes here. This is a big complex, and they have friends that work in different buildings here at St. Francis. A lot of them have been working together for a long time. A lot of them has been growing with the hospital as well. Of course, it's gone under a lot of construction and reconstruction, but of course there are contingencies, and they were able to follow them the best that they could. Of course, it's hard, though, when you do prepare for this and actually have to experience the real deal. A lot of the people that I know, including my mom, have posted the St. Francis symbol today with the hashtag St. Francis Strong as they try to begin this healing process. Live in Tulsa, Cal Day, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
Thank you, Cal. For those of you just tuning in, we are awaiting a news conference here in just a matter of minutes, and so we're bringing you coverage leading up to that news conference.
Until then, News on 6's Emery Bryan has his perspective that we want to hear. Emery, what has been your experience over these last 24 hours?
Well, it was an interesting scene out here last night, arriving as police officers were still arriving. I came from downtown to here, and it was clear that every police officer who was downtown around headquarters, this would have been around shift change normally, you know, 5 o'clock, so there was the normal 5 o'clock traffic, but there were so many police vehicles, marked and unmarked detective units coming to this area that even coming down on Yale, 41st and 51st, some of those streets were being blocked really by so many police vehicles headed this way. Here at the scene, there were employees that some of those folks that initially came out of the building or were locked out because they were for some reason outside the building at the time of the lockdown. They came over here and started making those phone calls that so many people were doing yesterday to find friends, to find coworkers, to find loved ones, and just waiting for answers here. So many people were very stressed by this situation, the uncertainty of what was going on. That was the scene out here at 65th and Yale, just across the street from this building. You know, such a huge campus and such a huge healthcare system. Almost everybody in Tulsa has been through here at some point to see a doctor or go to the adjacent hospital. That this is a place that so many people know, and so many people have been affected by that. And of course, we're seeing that in online comments and so many expressions of grief and sadness and people upset by what's happened at a place that they know very well. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Emery, the familiarity of this site, you know, we've mentioned this earlier throughout the morning that we've been doing stories, headlines of mass shootings across the country, but for it to be in our own backyard, it really does set a different tone. And obviously, Emery, I know you've covered Tulsa news for years. Had you ever seen anything like this?
Well, you know, this active shooter response is about as big as it gets. There was a very large response when that shot was fired a couple of months ago at Woodland Hills Mall. Turned out to be just a guy that, you know, fired one shot, but that triggered an active shooter response. And I talked to a police officer the other day who said He was the 53rd car to arrive, and he thought he was really in a hurry. But that triggers everybody, the fire department, police department, detectives, FBI, ATF, everybody showed up out here yesterday. But the reality of it is that I talked to a training officer Friday about this. Tulsa patrol officers are trained to go into these situations, go in alone if they have to, not wait for backup, not wait for special equipment, not wait for the SWAT teams you see on TV, because the reality is these things are going to be happening very quickly. They're going to be over very quickly. And so many times these gunmen, according to police training and statistics, these gunmen sometimes will kill themselves as they hear sirens. So they train to go in very quickly. And it seems like we're going to go to that news conference very soon. So back to you guys.
Thank you, Emery.
Tulsa police, city leaders, and health officials are meeting right now. Let's listen in.
Just maybe move that just a bit. Is that okay? Okay. Good morning. We'll get started here in just a minute, but before we do start, I'm Michelle Brooks, City of Tulsa Communications Director. Thank you for being here. We do have 4 speakers today. Tulsa Police Chief Wendell Franklin, Dr. Cliff Robertson, Dr. Ryan Parker, and Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum. Before we start, just so you know, all the remarks will be complete and then we will take questions. So the Q&A session will be at the end. When we start with the media questions, we will start on this end and move this way. We will have the opportunity to ask plenty of questions, but we want to have some sort of fluid questions starting from here, and then we'll span this way. When we have all the speakers will give their remarks. When you ask your question, please address it to a speaker behind me. They will come to the podium, they will repeat the question, and then they will reply. So with that, we'll get started, and Chief Franklin is here.
Good morning. I'm Chief Wendell Franklin with the Tulsa Police Department. I want to start out by saying that, first off, the most accurate information, the most proper information is going to come from one source, and that's the Tulsa Police Department. We at the Tulsa Police Department, we grieve with the families after this senseless tragedy. We grieve with the co-workers, and we pray. We pray because we all need prayer. I cannot begin to thank the men and women of the Tulsa Police Department for the immediate response that they had to the incident yesterday. Our training led us to take immediate action without hesitation. That's exactly what officers do, and that's what they did in this instance. They had the right mindset framed and went into action and did a tremendous job. The other first responders that came to the scene, the Tulsa Fire Department, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Tulsa County Sheriff's Office, the St. Francis Security Team, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, United States Marshal Service, Tribal Police, and other federal and local agencies all responded and descended upon 61st and Yale yesterday. This was not done. This was a coordinated effort. It was not done haphazardly. I also have to thank the dispatchers and call takers at our 911 center that reacted as they were trained. Law enforcement across the nation is dealing with increased violence among people. This is yet another act of violence upon an American city. I will say that as a Tulsa police officer, we train, and we train. And we train for instances such as this. And I'm overwhelmed and proud of the men and women, all those that responded yesterday. Now I want to take some time and go over the timeline with you as we know it today. This information is fluid and can still change. but it is the most accurate information that we have at this point. Before I do that, let me go ahead and provide the names of the victims, and I will allow St. Francis to elaborate more on those victims. We have Dr. Preston Phillips, Dr. Stephanie Huson, Amanda Green, William Love, and our suspect, Michael Lewis. On May 19th, Michael Lewis went into the hospital for a back surgery. The performing physician was Dr. Preston Phillips. Mr. Lewis was released on 5/24, May the 24th. After release, Lewis called several times over several days, complaining of pain and wanted additional treatment. On May 31st, Dr. Phillips saw Mr. Lewis again for additional treatment. Yesterday, June the 1st, Lewis called Dr. Phillips' office again, complaining of back pain and wanting additional assistance. Now, we know through the help of our ATF and their gun tracing that at 2 p.m. on June the 1st, Mr. Lewis purchased a semi-automatic rifle from a local gun store. That semi-automatic rifle was an AR-15 style rifle. We know that Mr. Lewis purchased a semi-automatic handgun, a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson pistol, on May the 29th from a local pawn shop. I now want to go into the shooting timeline. At 4:52 p.m. on June the 1st, a third party who was on a video chat off location with an on-location doctor called 911, saying the doctor told her to call 911, saying there has been a shooting. At 4:53 p.m., we received a 911 call about a shooter in a building. We then continued to receive multiple calls that were more specific on a shooter being on the second floor of the Natalie building on the campus of St. Francis Hospital. At 4:55 p.m., a person called and clarified the Natalie building as the scene of the shooting. The first Tulsa police officers arrived 1 minute later at 4:56 p.m. I want to give some context on the Natalie building. The Natalie building is a 5-story medical office building with numerous offices, rooms, hallways, and so forth. It is an exceedingly complex environment. A tactical situation for an officer to deal with is pretty complex. Officers entered the building on the first floor and made their way to the second floor based on the information they received. While on the second floor of the vast building, officers began yelling, "Tulsa police." This is something that we train to do. As officers were calling out Tulsa police and advancing towards a suspect location, they heard a gunshot. We believe that was the final gunshot, with the suspect taking his own life. The gunshot was at 4:58 p.m., approximately 39 seconds after the first officers entered the building. As officers started clearing the building, they came across a victim that was down in the exam room. Officers requested IMSA to the floor and continued searching for the suspect. This victim later died at the hospital. We found the suspect, and we rescued a female who was hiding under a desk at the suspect's foot. She was there when the suspect took his life. She did not appear to be injured. Officers rescued that victim who was hiding under a desk, but officers also located another deceased victim next to the shooting suspect. Officers continued to search the building for victims or additional suspects and came across another victim that was down in an open area near a nurse's station. At this point, officers began directing first responders, IMSA, and fire to those victims to render first aid. Again, this is something that we work cooperatively with, and we can go into what we call a hot environment with medical personnel and fire personnel and start rendering aid. In that same room there was the victim was at, officers also rescued an elderly female that was in the room. As officers continued to clear the building, they located Dr. Phillips deceased in an exam room. As officers continued to clear the building, they removed multiple witnesses and victims and escorted them from the building. As more officers arrived on scene, we began a methodical search of each floor of the 5-story structure, looking for witnesses and/or victims. Thus far, we have recovered 30 .223 casings from the crime scene. We have also recovered 7 .40 caliber casings from the crime scene. We have also found a letter on the suspect which made it clear that he came in with the intent to kill Dr. Phillips and anyone who got in his way. He blamed Dr. Phillips for the ongoing pain following the surgery. At 5:24 p.m., we received a call from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, and that dispatcher told us a woman on the line whose name they did not have called saying that her husband had killed several people at Dr. Phillips' office. This would have been a half hour after the event occurred. We received 2 follow-up phone calls from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office providing clarifying information. All of this information was after the fact. Once the scene was secure, the Tulsa Police Homicide and Crime Scene detectives began working the scene. They continued work until 3 a.m. this morning. We have now turned that scene back over to the hospital staff at St. Francis. I cannot emphasize enough that we train rigorously over and over and over again for not if, but when, because we have seen the violence that has taken place throughout the United States. And we would be naive not to think that that would not happen in our jurisdiction. So again, to the men and women of the Tulsa Police Department, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, all of the surrounding jurisdictions that descended upon the scene yesterday, I offer a heartfelt thanks, and I hope that each and every citizen that sees an officer today thanks an officer today, because this job is hard. It is difficult.
Thank you, Chief Franklin. I had an opportunity to walk through the clinic this morning, and I did that for 2 reasons. One of which so that I could see it for myself, more than just the lobby, which is where I was last night, but also so that I could do one thing, which is I represent over 10,000 people that make up the St. Francis Health System, and I prayed over each of the areas where it was clear that someone had laid, including the perpetrator. And I, last night, sent a message to our staff, and I just asked them to do two things, one of which is to ask questions, because there are 1,000 questions that we're gonna need to try to answer over the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, probably next couple of months. But I also asked them to acknowledge that yesterday will change St. Francis, and it is up to us to not allow this horrible event, this situation, we can't allow that to make us want to turn our back on the reason that we're here. We were all called into this profession. Whether you're a physician or a caregiver or a support staff, we were all called into this profession to care for others and to care for our community. And while it's human nature to want to turn our backs right now, to want to walk away, we can't do that, and we won't do that. And so all I ask is for you to continue to support this organization and this community with your prayers, and know that St. Francis will come out of this even stronger still.
I'm struggling with the right things to say in this moment, and maybe that's because there's truly not any right thing to say. There's no words that can adequately describe the emotions that we have been feeling for the last 18 hours. I'm just going to speak from my heart this morning, so I hope you'll bear with me. First, to the families of our colleagues who were killed. Our hearts break for you. In addition to my administrative role as the Associate Chief Medical Officer, I'm a practicing emergency physician, and I had lunch with Dr. Phillips on Tuesday. We work really closely with our orthopedic team in the emergency department, and I know that all of my colleagues went into medicine to help people. This was their calling. Like Dr. Robertson said, this isn't just a career for them. We are supposed to be the ones that are caring for others during tragedies like this. To think that our caregivers were the victims is just incomprehensible to me. They died while serving others. They died in the line of duty. To the family of Mr. Love, our hearts break for you. I was in our emergency department last night, and I saw the trauma hall lined with our trauma team, our emergency department team, staff from the OR, our nurses, techs, respiratory therapists. They are trained just like our police departments are. We so wanted to be able to utilize our skills and training to save these precious lives. To the family of Mr. Love, I'm so sorry we couldn't save you. We are grieving with you. When I woke this morning, I really just wanted this to all be a bad dream, but this is the reality of our world right now. And today our world and our St. Francis family are devastated. We were just starting to process the grief and emotions that being on the front line of a pandemic had left with us, and now this tragedy. But I will reiterate what Cliff said. Our job is to help and heal, and we are here to do our job, even if it's with broken hearts. On behalf of our medical staff, I would like to thank our security team and all of the first responders who, without hesitation or fear, were on scene to do what needed to be done. In the emergency department, we have a special relationship with our first responders. We work very closely with our police department, with IMSA and our other EMS agencies. They are part of the team, and we work with them on a daily basis. So thank you for being here for us in our time of need. Thank you for being here when we needed you. Thank you for all you do to serve our community. We have all asked for prayers, and I will reiterate that. Whatever faith you subscribe to, and even if you don't subscribe to a faith, I will tell you that a prayer is just a solemn request for help. And I think we could all agree that our world needs a little bit of help right now. I want to leave you with the prayer that's been on my heart since last night. Lord, I see a world that's dying, wounded by the master of deceit, groping in the darkness, haunted by the years of past defeat. But then I see you standing near me, shining with compassion in your eyes. Jesus, shine down on us. Let your love shine through us in the night. Lord, we want to be your witness. You can take what's wrong and make it right. Thank you.
I'm G.T. Bynum, the mayor of Tulsa. I want to start, I think one of the really important takeaways from the very detailed breakdown that Chief Franklin provided us today is just how many agencies and entities have lent their expertise to this response. And I want to thank a number of people who are here today to show their support for this team at St. Francis. Our Congressman Kevin Hearn, thank you. Our Sheriff Vic Regalado, my colleagues from the Tulsa City Council, Councilor Lake and Councilor Patrick, Dodson and Fowler, thank you. I've been contacted by the President's administration offering their support, spoken with Governor Stitt. Governor wanted me to let the team here at St. Francis know that he has directed that all flags in Oklahoma are to be lowered to half staff for the next 4 nights in honor of each of these 4 victims. And I really want to thank the first responders yesterday. It is remarkable that we can be here 17 hours after this happened and hear that breakdown from Chief Franklin in such a detailed way of what happened. And that is not just because the Tulsa Police Department or the St. Francis security team was here all by themselves. It was because there were so many law enforcement experts and first responders here, not just responding to the immediate threat. Though I will never forget, I spoke with an officer yesterday who's a seasoned veteran of the department, and he was one of the first people to get here. And he said, Mayor, it was like the beaches of Normandy out there. Everywhere I looked to my left and my right, there were officers running towards that building, jumping over bushes, getting around anything in their way between them and that threat so that they could save people. That is the law enforcement community that we have here in Tulsa. But I'm also so mindful, I went over to the Family Reunification Center last night, and I saw experts there from the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office and the Tulsa Police Department and so many more, leadership from St. Francis, who were there bringing their expertise in assisting victims of trauma to provide the best care that they could in the immediate aftermath of a great tragedy, and I want to thank them as well. Our focus right now is on grieving. The shooter is dead. The threat that he brought to this campus, that has been ended yesterday. But the days ahead of us and the weeks ahead of us, it is so important for this community to show the team here at St. Francis how much we love you. And I want to thank all of you for coming to work today. Every day for years, including through the worst public health crisis we've ever faced as a city, you have put yourselves at risk to save the lives of people in this city. And I hope you know how much it is appreciated. How grateful this community is for you and your work and the risks that you take, and never even appreciating that you could have to deal with this kind of risk and this kind of premeditated violence. And yet you're still here, ready to save more lives today. This is a remarkable group of people that work at the St. Francis Health System. And so I want to ask my fellow Tulsans, in the days and weeks ahead, and that's the two things I've been asked the most in the last 17 hours. One, people wanting to know the details of what happened and why it happened. Well, I think thanks to the law enforcement collaborative effort, we have a very clear understanding of that at this point. But even more than that, people want to know what they can do to help. We now know who the victims are. There will be a time to memorialize them and to show our support for their families individually. But we also know that our community needs to rally around the heroes who work at the St. Francis Health System. I speak on this as the CEO of another large organization that went through great tragedy in the last few years. I can tell you that individually, on an individual basis, when you say, we would really like people to donate to a fund, or we want everybody in town on Friday to wear pink, when there's a memorial service, we want people there lined up outside. Any one of those individual things can sound like it's not enough to compensate for the loss, and it's not. But I can also tell you that when we went through the murder of Sergeant Johnson and the grievous injury to Officer Zarkishan, the way this community rallied around the men and women of the Tulsa Police Department, the way the people on this campus at St. Francis Health System rallied around the men and women of the police department, it meant so much to our officers and their families and everyone who loves them. The collective impact of this community that is a community of such great love, that collective impact made a profound difference to people who are grieving and going through loss. And so that's what I would ask of my fellow Tulsans. If you want to help, participate in those ways that are going to come up in the days and weeks ahead, where you can show the people at St. Francis how much you love them and you support them, and that this community is here for them. I just want to say, lastly, on behalf of everyone in this community, it isn't enough to tell the team at St. Francis how much we love you and how grateful we are for you. There is nothing that we can say that will make this pain go away. But we will be here with you to walk with you through that process every step of the way. Have no doubt about that. Thank you.
We have been listening in to the news conference that's being held right now. We will continue to roll on this and make sure that we hear all the questions that are going to be asked by all the reporters. But just a quick recap. as we can only imagine, Chief Wendell Franklin outlining the moment-by-moment event that led up to yesterday's tragedy, from the back surgery that was performed by Dr. Phillips on Michael Lewis, the suspect, the continued pain that he was suffering, being released from the hospital, calling the doctor's office repeatedly, going in for a treatment, and then ultimately yesterday calling again, wanting relief. Yesterday afternoon at 2 p.m., they were able to track down that he purchased a semi-automatic rifle, an AR-15, as well as a pistol that he had purchased a few days before. And then, with the intent on killing Dr. Phillips, went into the second floor of the Natalie building there at St. Francis and murdered this man that you're seeing on the screen, a physician who was there to help. The other victims, Dave, that were also impacted.
Yeah, Dr. Stephanie Husin, we heard him say there, as well as, and the chief misspoke, her name is Amanda Glenn, not Green. You may have heard Green on TV, but our reporter Reagan Ledbetter said the third victim was Amanda Glenn, and then William Love, who you specifically heard Dr. Ryan Parker, who's the emergency medicine chief, say, you know, she had lunch with Dr. Phillips recently and said, "I'm sorry to Mr. Love's family that we could not save your loved one," indicating to me that he was not, in fact, an employee at the hospital. That's the way I took it that way.
Well.
Because, again, we had heard that they were all 4 employees of St. Francis, but we're still going to work on that. But, again, those are the victims' names on your screen. Of course, the suspect, Michael Lewis, shot and killed himself after all of this, and police believe that may have happened just less than a minute, 30 seconds after police officers entered that Natalie building at 4:56-ish yesterday. Maybe 30 seconds later, they heard what they believe was the final gunshot.
While we do have a lot more answers than we had, obviously, yesterday, there are still pieces that need to be in place. The home in Muskogee, the bomb threat that went out, this call that came in that said that their husband had killed these people, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. So we will continue to follow this situation, and we've got our teams out today bringing you updates, certainly for today at noon.
Yeah, multiple law enforcement agencies are working on this. Of course, you can always check for the latest on newson6.com and the News on 6 app. We thank you for joining us for this breaking news update on the mass shooting at the Natalie building at the St. Francis campus.
We now join our regularly scheduled programming, already in progress.
Blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
Living with metastatic breast cancer means being relentless, because every day matters. And having more of them is possible with Verzenio, the only one of its kind proven to help you live significantly longer when taken with fulvestrant, regardless